Late at night, in the towering glass office of Hayes Technologies, Sophie Hayes sat alone, staring at the financial reports on her screen. Something was wrong. The numbers didn't make sense. Stocks were crashing, investors were panicking, and millions of dollars had seemingly disappeared into thin air. A cold feeling crept up her spine. She had spent years proving herself as CEO, determined to carry on her father's legacy. But now, everything was falling apart. And the worst part? The person behind it all was the one she trusted the most, her own husband, Michael. But let's go back to where it all started. William Hayes wasn't just a billionaire. He was a self-made man who built his empire from nothing. A man who worked day and night, sacrificing everything to turn his small tech startup into one of the biggest companies in the world. More than wealth or success, there was only one thing he truly cared about: his daughter, Sophie. She wasn't just his pride and joy, she was the future of everything he had built. From a young age, Sophie had been groomed to take over the company. She was sharp, ambitious, and determined to make her mark. William had no doubt she would carry on his legacy. But then Michael came into the picture. Michael wasn't like the powerful businessman Sophie was used to. He was quiet, humble, and always there when she needed support. While others saw her as a CEO first, Michael saw her as a person. He listened when she spoke, understood her struggles, and made her feel less alone in a world where everyone expected her to be perfect. Their friendship turned into something more, and soon, Sophie found herself falling for him. When Michael proposed, she said yes without hesitation. It felt right. It felt like she had finally found someone who would stand by her side, no matter what. But William wasn't convinced. He had built his life around reading people, understanding motives, and spotting danger before it arrived. And something about Michael didn't sit right with him. "Sophie, you need to be careful," he had warned. "Not everyone is who they seem to be." But Sophie didn't listen. She believed in love. She believed in Michael. And she believed she was making the right choice. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Sophie led Hayes Technologies with confidence, and Michael stood by her side, the supportive husband everyone admired. But behind the scenes, something sinister was happening. Strange financial discrepancies, confidential information leaking, whispers of betrayal spreading through the company. And then, the truth hit her like a storm. Michael wasn't just her husband. He was her enemy. He had been playing a long game, gaining her trust, getting close to her, and all the while, quietly destroying the empire her father had built. Now, sitting alone in her office, Sophie knew there was only one person who could help her stop this: her father. But was it already too late? Sophie's fingers hovered over her phone as she debated calling her father. Every instinct told her she needed him now more than ever, but part of her hesitated. She had spent years proving she could handle the company on her own. If she called him now, would he see it as weakness? Would he say, "I told you so"? She swallowed her pride and dialed. William Hayes answered immediately. "Sophie?" His voice was calm, steady, just what she needed. "Dad." "Something's wrong," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think Michael—" Her throat tightened. Saying it out loud made it real. "You think he betrayed you?" William finished for her. Silence filled the space between them. Sophie could hear her father's measured breathing on the other end of the line. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't even angry. He had seen this coming. "All along, I need your help," Sophie finally said. William didn't hesitate. "Meet me at my house in an hour. Bring everything you have." Sophie didn't waste any time. She grabbed her laptop, printed reports, and drove through the city streets, her mind racing. How had she let this happen? How had Michael fooled her so completely? When she arrived at her father's estate, William was already waiting in his study. He sat at his large wooden desk, the same one where he had built his empire, where Sophie had spent countless nights as a child watching him work. "Show me," he said. Sophie spread the documents across the desk, pointing to the financial records. It started small. Tiny discrepancies, missing funds. I thought it was just normal accounting errors. But then stock prices dropped, and I realized someone had been leaking information. She swallowed hard. "Michael." William studied the reports with sharp eyes. "He's been selling off company secrets," he said, his voice tight. "This was never about love, Sophie. He played the long game, gained your trust, married into the company, and now he's trying to bring it down from the inside." Sophie felt sick. She had given her heart to this man. She had trusted him with everything. And he had been lying to her from the start. But why? She asked, desperate for answers. Why would he do this? William sighed, leaning back in his chair. Power, greed, maybe revenge. It doesn't matter. What matters is stopping him before he does any more damage. Sophie clenched her fists. "I want to confront him." William shook his head. "Not yet. You need proof. Solid proof. If we move too soon, he'll cover his tracks." Sophie took a deep breath. She hated waiting, but her father was right. If they wanted to take Michael down, they needed undeniable evidence. For the next few days, Sophie worked in secret, going through encrypted files, tracing transactions, and watching Michael's every move. And then, she found it. A direct link between Michael and an offshore account, where millions of dollars had been funneled. It was all the proof she needed. Now, it was time to confront him. Sophie sat in her office, staring at the documents on her screen. The proof was undeniable. Michael had stolen from the company, betrayed her trust, and manipulated his way into her life for his own gain. Her heart pounded, a mix of anger, hurt, and determination swirling inside her. She had given him everything, and he had thrown it all away. She picked up the phone and called her father. "I have everything we need," she said, her voice firm. William didn't sound surprised. "Then it's time to end this." That evening, Sophie asked Michael to meet her at the office. When he arrived, he walked in as if nothing was wrong, flashing her the same charming smile he had used to win her over. But this time, Sophie didn't fall for it. She pushed the documents toward him, watching his face closely as he scanned the pages. At first, he tried to laugh it off. "Sophie, this is a misunderstanding," he said, but she could hear the nervous edge in his voice. "Don't lie to me." She cut in. "I know everything. The offshore accounts, the stolen data, the stock manipulation." She leaned forward, her voice sharp. "You never loved me, did you?" Michael sighed, the mask slipping from his face. "You were a means to an end," he admitted, shrugging. "I was never going to just sit back and let your father control everything. I wanted my share." Sophie's stomach twisted. The man she had married, the man she had trusted, had never cared about her at all. She had been nothing more than a stepping stone in his plan. Before he could say another word, the office doors opened. 2 police officers stepped inside, along with William. Michael's expression darkened. "You called the cops?" Sophie nodded. "You made this choice, Michael. Now you'll face the consequences." The officers moved in, reading him his rights as they placed him in handcuffs. He struggled at first, his confidence finally cracking. "You'll regret this," he spat. "You think your father is the only one who knows how to play this game?" William stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "You underestimated my daughter, and that was your biggest mistake." As Michael was led away, Sophie felt the weight on her. Shoulders began to lift. It wasn't just about saving the company anymore. It was about reclaiming her life, her confidence, and her future. In the days that followed, the media exploded with the story. How the CEO's husband had betrayed her. How he had nearly taken down Hayes Technologies from the inside. But through it all, Sophie stood strong. With her father's guidance, she worked tirelessly to rebuild the company's reputation, proving to the world, and to herself, that she was more than capable of leading. One evening, as she sat across from her father in his study, he gave her a rare smile. "I always knew you had it in you," he said. Sophie met his gaze, feeling stronger than ever. "I just had to see it for myself." And with that, she knew. This wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning.